Okay, so on the white paper, I'm going to go over what we've done so far. We're going to review it. So problem number 1, I like turn my back and your earbud is in already. Take it out. Okay, so this is what we did yesterday. So to find the roots, I'm going to set this equal to 0 and this equal to 0. And these are my roots. So to find the x value of the vertex, I'm going to add these two together and divide by 2. So the x is going to equal -4 plus 2 divided by 2, which gives me -2 divided by 2, which is -1. So the x value is -1, which makes my axis of symmetry -1. Now how do I find my y? Correct. I'm going to take the -1 and put it in this equation right here, and that will give you your y value. So my y is going to equal -1 plus 4, -1 minus 2. So y is 3 and -3, which gives me -9. So what's the a value? And the a value comes from the number in front of the parenthesis. It's 1, Mrs. Archer. So is 1 positive or negative? Positive. So is that a maximum or a minimum value? Andrew, look at the cheat sheet on the board. A is positive. Look at it. Right here. A is positive. Vertex is so it's a minimum, and that's y equals -9. So let's go ahead and put -1, -9 on the graph. So the next thing it asks for is the y-intercept. So for the y-intercept, the x is 0. So back in this original equation up here, I'm going to, wherever there's an x, I'm going to put a 0. So I'm going to get y equals 0 plus 4 times 0 minus 2. And that gives me 4 times -2, which is -8. So I get 0, -8. So that goes right there. And the next are the x-intercepts. We already have them. What are they? I have -4 and 2. So -4 and 2. So there's the parabola. Okay, so how many of you you're pretty okay with this? This is okay. Okay. So I think here's the one that most of you ignored me on. That's okay. I was only hurt a little bit. Okay. So this is vertex form. And if it's in vertex form, we can actually get the vertex here. So my vertex is 1 and -9. And why is it a positive 1? X lies. So my axis of symmetry is 1. Andrew, what is the A this time? A is 1, which makes this a minimum at y equals -9. Thank you. So I'm going to come back to the x-intercepts. The y-intercepts, I'm going to plug in a 0. So y equals 0 minus 1 squared minus 9. So negative 1 squared is a positive 1. Minus 9 gives me negative 8. So I get 0, negative 8. And 1, negative 9. Now to solve for the x-intercepts, the y is 0, so I'm going to put 0 equals x minus 1 squared minus 9. I'm going to solve for the x, so the first thing I have to do is add the 9. And then how do I get rid of a squared? Right, so if I take the square root on both sides, what is the square root of 9? Do I know if it's the positive or negative? Okay, so I'm going to put plus or minus, and then I get x minus 1. And then to solve for x, how do I get rid of the minus 1? So if I add 1, and I want to move the 1 to the beginning. So I end up with 1 plus or minus 3 equals x. So here's where you all got confused. So watch. I'm going to get two answers. I'm going to get x equals 1 plus 3, which is 4. And I'm going to get x equals 1 minus 3, which is negative 2. So I did the plus, and then I did the minus. So those are my x-intercepts. So number 3 is just asking for a root form. So that just means you have to factor. So is there greatest common factor here? 3. So if I divide by 3, and if I do my little t-chart, I get negative 3, negative 2, which is negative 3 and 1. So watch, this a right here, this 3, this is your a for your root form. What you factored out, that is the a. So in root form, I have 3 times x minus 3 and x plus 1. So what does that make my actual roots? 3 and negative 1. Okay, so does that help a little bit? So this is what we did yesterday. This is the vertex, and this is the factoring one. Okay? So the last one we're going to do today is standard form. And that's on the pink sheet. Okay, so I know there's examples on the front. I want to come back to that. If you'd open it up. Okay, so here's the best part about standard form, and you should all be really excited about this. Jack, you should be a little happier about this, okay? So here's the best part about standard form. First of all, this number right here, that is your y-intercept. You don't even have to work. It's just right there. Thank you. Thank you. And then second, we can find the vertex with a formula negative b over 2a. So if I look at example 1, my a value is 1, my b value is negative 4, and my c value is positive 4. So I want to find negative b over 2a. So it's negative here, but it's negative here. So what happens? That's a positive, so I get 4 over 2 times 1 is 2. So x is 4. So that makes my x value 4 and my axis of symmetry 4. It makes it 2. 2, right, 2, everybody. Yeah, no, 2, 2, and 2. Sorry. So now that I have my x, how do you think I'm going to find my y? I'm going to take this number and I'm going to plug it back in to my original equation. So if my x is 2, I'm going to plug 2 in. I'm going to get 2 squared minus 4 times 2 plus 4. So 4 plus 4 is 8, minus 8 is 0. So my vertex is 2, 0. Michael, you're trying to go to sleep sitting up again. I commend the effort, but no. So the a value comes in front of the x squared. And what is the a value this time? It's 1. So if it's 1, Andrew, is that a minimum or a maximum? Thank you. So it's a minimum at y equals 0. So now I want to fill in my vertex form. So I need a, which we just said was 1, my h, which was 2, and my k, which is 0. So I'm going to get y equals 1 times x minus 2 squared plus 0. And I said one of the good things about standard form is the y-intercept. We already have it. It's 4. It's always the c value. So this is 4. So my x-intercepts, does this factor? Yes. I think you guys should be a little more excited about this, a little more into this. I can see I'm going to have to start having some activities. We'll have to get up. So my roots are going to be negative 2 and negative 2. That's the same. So let's graph it. So I have negative 2. The y-intercept is 0, 4. So it looks something like this. Okay, all of you try the next one. Okay, so before we go back and talk about your blank papers, the last graph we did, so what is the vertex? 2, 0. Where did I graph it? What the heck? Your teacher is terrible. So it should be here, which is going to make the parabola go this way. Why did not a single one of you say, Mrs. Archer, you're graphing on the wrong side of the x-axis? Not a single one of you. Wake up. Clearly I need to wake up as well, but since I'm the one that did the graphing error. You better lift your head up back there. Your paper is empty. So, what is the A value? And what's the B value? and the C value. Let's see if we can actually graph this one correctly, shall we? Be quiet, Jack. So x equals a negative b over 2a. So negative b is 0. So I get 0 over 2, which is 0, which makes this 0 and my axis of symmetry 0. Have I made any mistakes yet, Mason? Well, you better pay attention. Don't let me get very far if I'm making mistakes this time. All right. So now that I have the 0, how do I find the y value? I plug it back in and it ends up being c, doesn't it? So if I put y equals 0 squared minus 9, so my y is negative 9. Andrew, is this a minimum or a maximum? Because the a is positive and it is a minimum. So 0, negative 9. Let's put that on there before I mess that up. There we go. So what's the y-intercept? We already said it's the same because that's the c value. And now I need the x-intercepts. So x squared minus 9, how does that factor, boys and girls? It is a perfect square. So that factors x plus 3 and x minus 3, which makes my x-intercepts negative 3 and positive 3. Okay, are we done having fun? I think we are.